I would say that I've been very open about my being critical of Amazon Game Studios. Everyone will know that based off of my video that I put out, New World Might Kill Lost Ark, that I've been pretty fair with my critical views on Amazon Game Studios. I kind of have a little bit of a personal beef with them, simply because back whenever I first started content creation and started my channel, I was covering a game called Crucible. And ironically, I'm wearing that shirt today. But what's interesting is that as negative as my view is on the company as a whole, they very well may have actually made up for it. Let's go ahead and explore this, shall we? We're gonna do a bit of a weighted system on how I feel. Now, this is just my opinion on how they've done on each one of these little categories, and we're going to be basing it off of scale of 5. So first, let's talk about ease of access. Ease of access, I give this a 5 out of 5. It's not very hard to get, a good score on ease of access, simply because it's through Steam. You purchase it on Steam, it gets downloaded, and you play it, right? Super easy. So we're not going to really talk a whole lot about that. And, it is what it is there. But let's go on to the more meat and potatoes of this aspect, right? So tutorial and first moments. Now, I give this a 4 out of 5. And I know, some of you might be like, oh, well, that's slightly too high and so forth and so on. But here's my take on it. So in the tutorial and your first moments, it gives you a very rudimentary, very basic intro, right? So you land on this beach and, you go through the little movements where your mouse, right? Your heavy attack and so forth and so on. But, you progress through the little linear path and then you come to this big expansive world with a nice little cutscene, right? But I think the main reason why I give it a 4 out of 5 is because your first moments in the game, whenever I'm playing an MMO, I really like to have feelings of nostalgia. I come from the Final Fantasy XI online days. That was my very first real, true, in-depth experience, real obsession with Final Fantasy XI. And over the years, there's only been one other MMO, two other MMOs that actually kind of gave me that same warm, fuzzy feeling, if you will. One of them was Eye on the Tower of Eternity, and I know some of you are probably going to shudder about that. Back in the day, it was pushing the envelope of what was considered to be a normal MMO, right? And of course, Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV, I'm not talking 1.0 because I used to play that as well, but we're talking the current iteration, right? Final Fantasy 2.0. When you play an MMO, as an MMO player, you hunt and you search for that feel good moment, right? You can just feel it whenever you enter into the game. It's like, oh, okay, I can feel it, right? So one thing I feel that New World does do a really good job of is that it gives you that good feeling, hey, there's something here, right? And I was extremely skeptical when my buddy Brian over at Ginger Prime said, there's just something special about this game. They're really onto something. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit critical of that. I'm like, okay, because like I said, I have a bias against Amazon Game Studios, but I'm willing to look past that, for professional courtesy, right? So your first moments, I think, are critical in any game to give you those feelings that you're looking for, because when you're looking to get into a game, you want to get those feelings, right? So that's why I give it a 4 out of 5. There's always room for improvement as you progress through the game, but as far as the first moments go, I think it's a very solid 4 out of 5. So let's go ahead and move on to mechanics. Mechanics in this game are very rudimentary. They're very basic, right? You have your typical sliders for your, attribute points and so forth and so on. You've got 3 primary skills for your weapons. Builds are, a little bit more on the simple side, but, simple always isn't bad. And sometimes, things can be a little bit overcomplicated, right? Let's take Lost Ark, for instance. Lost Ark builds are actually extremely complicated for what they are. They're very, very in-depth. And granted, that's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody wants to have a really, really complicated, build tree or anything like that. On the other hand, some people do. So, if you're looking for complicated build mechanics, New World's not going to offer that, right? But it does offer the simplicity that a lot of users want. You can easily jump into it, and it feeds back into that ease of access while you're playing. So mechanics, I give it a solid 4 out of 5, because in all honesty, I also tackle in the AI aspect of any game. Whenever you deal with the AI is pretty rudimentary. They have the same, linear attacks, the AI is very basic, but the AI is an easy fix. That's something that could be fixed fairly simply later on down the road. Right now, they have a good placeholder. The AI is not truly terrible. I mean, I've dealt with truly terrible AI in many games, and New World's AI, yes, it is a little bit of a quip for me, but it's fixable, right? So they got a good placeholder for now. A few months down the road, easy fix. So let's go ahead and talk about progression, right? So progression is kind of a big thing to a lot of people. They want to feel that their time isn't being wasted. I feel that, especially me, where my time is at a premium, if you're really looking for a game that you can just hop into and just do some medial tasks, let's say life skills, right? You want to do some crafting. You want to feel rewarded for your time spent, even if it's only 30 minutes in the game or 12 hours in the game. You want to feel like you're able to accomplish something, anything, right? New World does a very good job of making use of your time. Pretty much everything that you do in the game rewards you with experience points, right? And even if you're just logging in for a half an hour and you're going out and just collecting some hemp, or catching some salmon, or going out and hunting for silver veins or gold veins, or even just going out and mining some boulders to skill up your mining skill, every single thing that you do rewards you as a player. Everything that you do has some sort of end result that's going to benefit you as a player in the long run. And I think Amazon really hit the nail on the head, especially with the life skills. Now, some people might say, well, the progression system as far as actually leveling is very linear and so forth and so on. And granted, yes, they took an old skill approach as far as, go and pick up this quest over here in point A, and then go and collect X many, widgets over in point B, and then go back. This is true. But if you're only doing that, and you are only progressing through the game in a linear fashion, and you're rushing to that end level, then that's how that game is going to feel to you. Now, I'm going to quote my buddy Brian over at Ginger Prime here, and you're going to hear his name mentioned a lot here on my channel, most likely, because he makes very good points. And he has said, and I quote, "A lot of people are playing this game like level 60 is the end game. But what they really don't know is that the end game in New World starts at level 1. Everything that you do in this game is going to have a direct effect on how this game plays for you. And in this particular case, I feel that Amazon Game Studios totally hit the nail on the head with the progression system overall. Everything else in the game, as far as the rest of the progression systems, they can all be fixed later. But right now, they have a pretty solid foundation to work from, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. I think it's something that just about everybody can get behind, and I think they have something really special here. Now let's go ahead and hop into the lore. I give the lore a 4.5 out of 5. I only give it a 4.5 out of 5 because in the beginning stages of the game, you really don't get a huge taste of the lore. And whenever I say the beginning stages, I'm talking like 1 through 15. After 15, the lore does start to pick up. But I myself right now, being level, I think, of 15 and a half, I haven't really experienced a huge chunk of the lore yet. But I know the lore is there. And I always give games a general score of 4.5 on the good end because there's always room for improvement. And it's interesting with New World because they have done such a good job of leaving things open-ended, right? Because let's face it, you're on this mystical island, right? Out in the middle of the ocean. And they've left themselves, many loopholes where they can continue to expand on that universe, that they've provided such a wonderful potential experience in the future. And I think it's a wonderful experience now, don't get me wrong, but the potential for the future is so open for them. There's so many things that they can do. They could add more weapons and so forth to engage their audience, that they've just provided a very good platform even for the lore in this game, right? So let's go ahead and talk the bare bone basics, the nitty gritty of things. And let's talk about my personal favorite, the graphics. I have been an absolute graphics hound, I'll use that word, forever. I'm always searching for a game that provides a good graphic fidelity, a good graphics experience. I really enjoy that eye candy. And now granted, New World might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I really have enjoyed New World's graphics. I can't tell you how many times I'm out mining or logging or, just doing questing. And I stop and I just look and take in the scenery because it's just so damn gorgeous. I have taken so many screenshots of the game that I'm probably going to be using in thumbnails later on, that it's absolutely breathtaking sometimes. And they also do a very good job about leading you into quests where they lead you to discover these vestiges, right? Where you get that awe factor. And that earns them a 5 out of 5, in my opinion. That plus the general graphic fidelity of the trees and the plant life. And let's talk about the audio, right? The audio, I give a 5 out of 5 as well. Now, granted, some of the verbals, the verbal cues that the characters have, especially like with the life staff and stuff, some of it's a little hokey, right? But the audio fidelity of the game, the spatial aspect that you get, whenever I was a kid, we used to hit a lot of rocks, with sledgehammers and stuff, breaking stuff up, blocks and so forth. And there's always that snap at the end of the hit, right? Especially whenever it's bouncing off of something at a distance. You get that auditory spatial feeling whenever you're mining. You get that auditory response when you're cutting down a tree. It's like, man, I'm really cutting this tree down. It's not that typical like cartoony hollow feeling. It's like when you're cutting down a tree, you're really cutting down a tree. But I love audio. I take a lot of pride in my audio here on this channel, and I think audio really makes a huge difference in games and just personal involvement with things, right? So let's talk about the big potato. Let's talk about servers, right? So a lot of people, they have their own opinions on this. So I broke it up into 2 subsections: access and stability. Access has been pretty bad. I mean, you go all over the internet and you see nothing but memes and posts about the queue times, 10,000 person queue, which ends up being, like a 5-hour queue. Heck, there's people that even have like a 18-hour queue, right? So access, I definitely have to give it a 3 to 3.5 out of 5, simply because the access to the servers can be made so much better. But I give them a 3.5 because this can be improved, and they are doing a very good job of improving that. They are adding a massive amount of servers, guys, a massive amount. Out of all the game launches I've ever experienced over the past 20 years, I've never seen a company, first of all, have such a quick turnaround about opening servers up and adding new servers. But on top of that, they are being public about what they're doing, and they're offering free server transfers over the next couple weeks. And truth be told, given the level of response that we've had so far from them, it would not surprise me if they may actually extend that out a little bit even more, so that way they're not alienating their public. And this is kind of a big deal, because this is something that really actually kind of took me by surprise, because let's face it, like I said, I've been very critical of Amazon Game Studios, but this was an absolute win for them, and the fact that they're communicating about it is absolutely great. Now, let's talk about one other aspect for the servers, and that's the stability. Guys, listen, I was playing pretty much since, launch morning, right? Played almost the whole day. Never experienced any lag, and I never got disconnected. Granted, whenever I first logged in and tried to get into the server, we were launching on Eden, we got stuck in a queue within the first 5 minutes, and we sat there for 2 hours. So make no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not one of those that I'm like, oh, the servers are great because I got right in and did it. No, I didn't get right in. I actually had to wait 2 hours. We ended up switching our whole company server over to Ninchala in order to actually be able to play the game that day. But just from the stability aspect of the servers, Amazon Game Studios achieved something that I was critical of, and I'll say that again. They achieved something that I did not think that they would be able to pull off. I'm not even kidding. No company until now has been able to provide such a stable overall experience. I know there's going to be examples everywhere where, oh, well, this person kept getting DC'd, or, you know, this person. There's always going to be those exceptions, right? But overall, the server stability has been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And truly record-setting. And then speaking of records, you know, Amazon's New World is absolutely crushing it on day one. Day one, they reported 700,000 concurrent players on Steam and 925,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch. Like, that's huge, 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 huge. Now, granted, the whole viewers on Twitch thing can be easily explained because of the whole Twitch drops situation, in which I'm going to touch on that here in just a minute. So, you know, that part is explainable, but overall, you know, the game is defying the odds. There were so many naysayers, and I'm not saying that I was necessarily a naysayer. I was just skeptical, right? Very skeptical, very critical. But overall, you know, if you tally up all of my points rankings for the game so far, you know, as far as launch day and so forth goes, you know, it gets at least a 90% rating from me. And I think that says a lot considering my background and how critical I have been over the past few weeks with Amazon Game Studios. And I'm very, very intrigued to see where they're going to go from here. I think that New World has a very bright future based off of what I've seen so far. If they can continue to hammer away and chisel away a lot of these inconveniences, from what I understand, people are still having issues with the Twitch drops and trying to get the Amazon Prime content. And actually, I'm going to leave a link down below for those of you who are still having issues. I put out 2 videos earlier this weekend in preparation for the launch on how to go about enabling the Twitch drops and the Amazon Prime content. Those have worked very well for a lot of people. Some people are still having issues. So I'm going to be including a third link as well, where Amazon Game Studios is trying to alleviate this issue. It is a known issue. If you notice whenever you log into the game that there is no purple Twitch button up in the very top. So I'm going to provide this third link where it will take you to a web page where it's a kind of a one-stop shop. You can link your Twitch, your Amazon Prime, and your Steam accounts all to the game through that web page. It's something that you're going to have to try. It may work for you. I've heard some people I've had some people make some content or comments on my videos where it's not working for them. My only plea is that just stay tuned, keep trying. You can follow me on Twitter. I actually try to report back as quickly as I can whenever I see some news about what's going on with this particular aspect of the game. And overall, I'll make tweets. So if you want to follow my Twitter, I'll leave a link in the description below. So that way you can follow me over there and you can get news updates. But other than that, guys, I'm pretty blown away. I think New World has a great future, and I can't wait to see what happens. So I just want to thank you all for watching the video today, and as always, if you want to support my channel, a great and free way of doing so is to smash that subscribe button, hit a like, and give that notification bell a little tickle. If you guys like what you see and you want to hear more from me, I will catch you in the next video, and as always, I'll see you in the New World.